Good morning, everyone. May we please request everyone to settle down as we are about to start the program in a few minutes. Please all rise for the prayer, followed by the Philippine National Anthem. Dear God, thank you for all the blessings you have bestowed upon us. We are truly grateful for them. Thank you for allowing us today to meet and share our knowledge and time with one another. May you bless every one of us so that we will be able to glean the vital knowledge from this activity. May you bestow your blessings after this activity so that we may go out and spread what we learned in the spirit of your love and generosity. These we ask in Jesus' name. Amen. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the virtual panel discussion webinar for today with the theme Rejuvenating the Medical Travel and Wellness Tourism Industry in the Philippines. To officially start this program, allow us to introduce our host for today. He is an Associate Professor of the Practice of Global Public Health and Inaugural Director of the Planetary and Global Health Program of the St. Luke's Medical Center College of Medicine, William H. Quasha Memorial in the Philippines. He is also an Obama Foundation Asia Pacific Leader, Aspen Institute New Voices Fellow, and Climate Reality Leader. One of the staunchest, most exciting, and most innovative voices for the new discipline of planetary health, the Chief Planetary Doctor of PH Lab, the Chief Planetary Doctor of PH Lab, a global think and do tank for advancing the health of both people and the planet. Let us all welcome Dr. Renzo Ginto.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this virtual panel discussion for today with the theme Rejuvenating and the Medical Tourism and Wellness Tourism Industry in the Philippines. I am Dr. Renzo Ginto, your host for today's webinar. I hope you're all doing fine. You're all safe in the comfort of your homes. And today we have invited a variety of speakers to share with us their thoughts on the country's medical tourism industry. And so please stand by, join us, be with us throughout the webinar. You may also comment your thoughts and questions, and I will address them to our speakers later. So to officially open today's session, let me introduce our keynote speaker. He is a graduate of the BS Hotel and Restaurant Administration at the University of the Philippines, where he was awarded the most outstanding alumnus in 2012. He took his master's in business administration at the Ateneo Graduate School of Business, as well as master's in national security administration at the National Defense College of the Philippines, where he was cited the most outstanding alumnus in 2003. When he joined the Philippine Department of Tourism, he was initially involved in planning, product research and development, and investment promotions. Therefore, or thereafter, he was posted in Tokyo as tourism attaché. Upon his return to the head office, he was asked to take the lead in the marketing teams for Japan, Middle East, and Asia Pacific. His experience in the DOT has strongly built in him an ardent dedication to inclusive and sustainable tourism development, being an integral part of the local and international campaign to promote the Philippines around the globe. As the department spokesperson from 2010 to 2016 and until today, he continues to champion how tourism can become an avenue to empower locals to create and improve products and services that will contribute to the preservation of our communities. Among his other duties and responsibilities in the department, he serves as the tourism secretary, as alternate in the board of the Philippine Tourism Promotions Board and the Philippine Commission on Sports and scuba diving, and is likewise a member of the following organizations: the ASEAN National Tourism Organization, the Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation, the World Tourism Organization, the Pacific Asia Travel Association, World Travel and Tourism Council, Farm Tourism Development Board, National Ecotourism Development Council, and the National Ecotourism Steering Committee. What a sterling achievement and experience in advancing the tourism sector in the Philippines. So now, without further ado, let us all welcome the Undersecretary for Tourism Development of the Department of Tourism, Undersecretary Benito C. Bengzon Jr.
Thank you, Dr. Ren. Thank you, Dr. Renzo, for your kind introduction. Good morning, everyone. On behalf of the Department of Tourism and Secretary Berna Romulo Puyat, I would like to thank and acknowledge all our speakers and panelists from the government and the private sector for joining us today, day one of the virtual panel discussions on rejuvenating the medical travel and wellness tourism industry in the Philippines. To our participating speakers and panelists, Ms. Carla Nanyong of the Philippine Tripartite Accreditation for Healthcare Foundation, Dr. Raul Ramboyong of the Medical City, Dr. Leonita Gorgolon of the Department of Health, and of course, Assistant Secretary Robbie Alabado of the Department of Tourism. Thank you all for participating live stream via Facebook and Zoom. The COVID-19 pandemic has created a global health crisis that has a deep impact on all the sectors of the economy around the world. And the closure of borders resulted in the cancellation or suspension of almost all travels and gravely affected the tourism industry worldwide. In the Philippines, the COVID-19 pandemic forced the majority of tourism-related businesses to either suspend their operations or permanently close shop. The Department of Tourism amidst the pandemic, has assumed an active role in ensuring that the industry stakeholders are given the support in any way possible to at least get them through this pandemic and help find ways to get them back to operation under the new normal. Several tourism activities are expected to come back to business ahead of others, among which is medical and wellness tourism. The DOT has long identified medical and wellness tourism as a promising sector of the country's tourism industry that can contribute significantly not only to the tourism traffic to the Philippines, but more importantly as an economic driver that will help generate employment and livelihood. And the country's medical and wellness products that highlight world-class medical facilities, quality services, and treatments and medical professionals, the unique Filipino wellness modalities, and most of all, the genuine Filipino brand of care have been gaining traction among domestic and foreign markets. And these products have gradually positioned the Philippines as the next important player in the regional and eventually global medical and wellness community. But just like the other countries, the Philippine medical and wellness tourism industry is now faced with a challenge on how to run a medical and wellness facility in the face of COVID-19 when foreign medical tourists have been postponing or even canceling their trips to the country altogether. As to be expected, our hospitals are now focused on local patients, especially the COVID-19 cases or those with critical illnesses. But despite all these hurdles, the medical and wellness tourism industry stakeholders find a silver lining in the way people perceive health and wellness as a priority in the new normal. It builds a strong sense of hope for the industry to finally bounce back soon while adhering to the health and safety protocols set for the industry. Currently, hospitals and wellness centers have been getting inquiries from abroad, especially for critical surgery services and complete wellness journey programs. Likewise, there is a growing interest from the domestic market to go out and indulge in wellness getaways as destinations slowly open up to welcome domestic travelers. It is in this light that we have this panel discussion to provide industry updates as well as an opportunity to discuss issues and present government initiatives to help the industry survive this pandemic. And this morning, we are here together with the member agencies of the National Technical Working Group for Medical Tourism and Wellness Tourism Program, and of course, our private sector stakeholders. And I'd like to take this opportunity to acknowledge our partners from the other government agencies, the members of the National Technical Working Group for Medical Travel and Wellness Tourism Programs who are viewing us on Facebook. We have, of course, the Department of Health, the Board of Investments, the Department of Foreign Affairs, the Tourism Infrastructure and Enterprise Zone Authority, the Philippine Economic Zone Authority, Manila International Airport Authority, and the Bureau of Immigration. We also have our partners from the private sector, including the hospitals, the wellness centers, the ambulatory clinics, and the dental clinics. So we welcome you all to this morning's panel discussions on rejuvenating the medical travel and wellness tourism industry in the Philippines, and we hope that we can exchange valuable insights and learnings as we go through these challenging times. Together, we will rise as one. So I wish everyone a productive session ahead. Maraming salamat po at mabuhay.
Thank you for that heartwarming and an inspiring opening message, Undersecretary Benito C. Bengzon Jr. Moving forward, our next speaker works as the operations manager of the Philippine Tripartite Accreditation for Health Facilities Incorporated, or PTAHF Inc., an independent nonprofit organization dedicated to improving and promoting quality and safety in the delivery of healthcare in the Philippines through continuing review of performance, assessment, and accreditation. She is an industrial engineer by profession and has more than 20 years work experience in process improvement in banking, utility, and healthcare industries. She was the assistant vice president of the Quality Improvement and Safety Division of the Medical City, where she established and headed the quality department in 2003 or from 2003 to 2015. She led three JCIA survey accreditation preparation, readiness, and certification from 2006 to 2012. She also led the team in the development and conduct of quality improvement and safety training program at the Hoan Mai Group of hospitals in Vietnam, and the team in the implementation of the standard TMC policies and procedures for the different acquired hospitals and clinics. In January 2018, she joined the Philippine Tripartite Accreditation for Health Facilities as administrative assessor and assists in the revisions and preparation of progress reports to the International Society for Quality in Healthcare. Here to talk about how will quality and patient safety boost medical tourism, let us call on Ms. Maria Carla G. Nanyong.
Hi everyone, good morning. Thank you so much, Doc Renzo, for that introduction. On behalf of the Philippine Tripartite Accreditation for Health Facilities Board of Directors, or we call it PTAF, led by our President, Maria Linda Buhat, and our Chairman of the Board, Dr. Bernardino Vicente. PTAF would like to thank everyone, especially DOT, and DOH and DTI and DOI for inviting us in this panel discussion. And for this morning, I'm going to discuss about how will quality and patient safety boost medical tourism. I'll just run you quickly on what are the topics that I'll be discussing. First is we need to really have a understanding on the definition of the healthcare accreditation, followed by how many are really there across the world, international healthcare accreditation organizations, and then what are the benefits of getting an international healthcare accreditation. Just a short briefing of who we are, who is PTAF, how is our PTAF accreditation process, and lastly, we're going to briefly walk you through on our PTAF quality standards. Let me start my presentation with this just quick formula on how are we really going to boost medical tourism. First is really on the compliance to international quality and patient safety standards. Most of us, of course, as healthcare facilities, we really like and achieve patient satisfaction to the highest. And most of us would really adopt and implement best practices internationally. But that is not actually enough. Bakit? Kasi hindi natin alam internally, we actually are doing well. So paano natin malalaman, how are we going to gauge if we're really doing well and we're giving the best to our patients and to their families? It's through international accreditation. So yung dalawang factors na yan is so important if you wish to really go into medical tourism. So not just domestic, but also for international or foreign medical tourism. All right? So let's define really healthcare accreditation. So meaning, sabi natin, it's not enough for you to really just adopt internally, but there should be an external body who would really assess and external peer assessment process used by healthcare organizations to really what accurately assess their level of performance in relation to established standards and to implement ways to continuously improve. So that's so important, no? Those hospitals are really into passionately improving continuously for their services for their patients. They really undergo healthcare accreditation. So here, I'd just like you to present ilan ba ang available international accreditation across the world. So in 2017 or prior 2017, there are actually 9 countries with 11 international organizations. No? So you're now seeing it in the screen those 9 countries. I'll just run through you the 11. Okay, international organizations prior to 2017. First off is in Australia. There's one. There's two. There's two in Australia. It's ACHSI, that's Australian Council on Healthcare Standards International. Second is AMPAL, the Australian General Practice Accreditation Limited. And then in Canada, there's one. There's ACI, that's Accreditation Canada International. Next is there's France. I hope I pronounce this correctly. It's Haute Autorité de Santé, or HAS. And then there's one in India. That's NAB, or NABH, the National Accreditation Board for Hospitals and Healthcare Providers. Fifth country offering is the New Zealand. They have QHNZ, or the Quality Health New Zealand. In Saudi Arabia, there's one. It's CBAHI, or the Saudi Central Board for Accreditation of Healthcare Institution. The seventh country offering international accreditation for healthcare is Turkey. They have SAS, or the Standards of Accreditation in Health. Next is the United Kingdom. They have one, QHAA Trent accreditation. And lastly, on the ninth country is the USA. They have two. They have ACHACI, that's Accreditation Commission for Healthcare, and JCI, mentioned already, Joint Commission International. Okay? If you might ask, like, nasaan kaya yung isang common sa Pilipinas? And that's actually the 10th. The 10th country, Switzerland, the ISO. Why did I include first ISO 9001:2015? Because as we said, the previous 11 international organizations are really more specific for healthcare. But for the quality management system of ISO 9001:2015 is really more on a general framework for quality management, applicable for all types of industry, which is actually including healthcare. Okay, with these 11, or they say 12 already, including ISO, there are only 6. Lahat yung mga na may asterisk are also accredited by a higher body, or ISQA, the International Society Quality for Healthcare. They are the ones actually accrediting external evaluation associations. They are the one who's going to also accredit their quality standards and their survey process that are par really in terms of highest quality in terms of healthcare. Okay? So, 6 lang out of the 12 ang nagpa-accredit sa ISQA, or now they are called IEEA. The I is the long ISQA, and EEA is the External Evaluation Association. All right? So, out of the 12, there are only 5 of the international accreditation for that matter, including ISO, who has been tried and tested by us Filipinos. So ano na tong limang to. So makikita nyo in the screen yung may mga logos. These are NAB, QHA Trend, ACI, JCI, and of course, ISO. Okay? So, out of the 10 in 2017, only 5 are known to the Philippines. But luckily in 2017, okay, so prior to that, in 2017, you might actually want to ask, sino-sino at ilan ang mga na-accredit na nitong limang international accreditation here in the Philippines. So let's start with NAB. Bakit 1 plus 1 dito sa screen? It's because there's actually accredited one hospital. That's Cabrini Medical Center in Santo Tomas, Batangas, and also one clinic, that's Bello Clinic. Okay, that's for NAB. For QHA Trend, they've actually accredited already Cebu Doctors University Hospital. For Accreditation Canada International, they've already up to date as of now 4 hospitals. These 4 hospitals are Davao Medical Center, Manila Doctors Hospital, Philippine Heart Center, and now included Cardinal Santos. The 2 ambulatory surgical clinics are Asian Eye Institute and Clinical Manila. And lastly, JCI, only 5 hospitals have tried to be accredited. No, wala pang clinic here in the Philippines have been accredited by JCI. The 5 hospitals are, of course, St. Luke's in Quezon City, followed by the Medical City, then Makati Med, St. Luke's in BGC, and lastly, Asian Hospital. So those are the 5. And to think, in prior 2017, sila pa lang internationally accredited for healthcare nitong limang known here in the Philippines. Of course, for ISO, madami yan. As I said, maraming clinics and hospitals already been accredited by ISO. To name a few, I can, for hospital, Dagupan Doctors is one, Tondo Medical Center is one, and National Children's Hospital is one. And a lot more has been accredited already in the ISO 9000 2015. Okay, so those are the Philippine health facilities have been accredited already, internationally accreditation for healthcare. But luckily, in 2017, we've joined the band of the International Accreditation for Healthcare. Philippines has been accredited through PITAF in 2017. And to date, we already have accredited 3. Later, I'm going to present those 3 hospitals that have been accredited. Okay. Also in 2017, Germany already joined. So pang 14th ang Germany sa country who's offering international accreditation for healthcare, and that's TIMOS. So if you're going to look at our accreditations here, we're also PITAF and TIMOS are also accredited by ISQA. So we are really at par with our international competitors. Okay. And in 2017 also, ISO also introduced their standard, particularly for healthcare, and that's ISO 15224-2017. So meron na talaga silang, lastly, no, ISO already have a standard, particularly for healthcare, and that's 15224. Okay, and with these 14 countries, with these 14, talagang 14, diba, nagkataon, 14 known or common internationally accreditation organizations worldwide. I'll talk about the top five international accreditation known in the Philippines. First, of course, ISO, based on the number of accredited health facilities in the country. Next is, of On the list is ACI with 6 facilities, health facilities, and JCI with 5. And of course, us. Pang fourth is PITA. We have already 3. And lastly, NAB, we actually have 2. If you're going to look at each of these international accreditation known in the Philippines, their website, you actually will see different benefits of becoming an accreditation or getting an accreditation for that matter. But if you look at this presentation, all of those reds are really common to all. Okay? Talagang similar, and we have also one goal of or benefits that we can impart to all health facilities. And these common benefits are, first is really to foster respectful, compassionate, culturally appropriate, and competent care that is responsive to the needs, values, beliefs, and preferences of clients and their family members. So if you're accredited, it's not just like purely clients or the customers or the patients. It's really even for the family members are also being considered. Okay. Next is it actually stimulate and demonstrate continuous sustained improvement through a reliable process. Why is it a continuous? Because if you maintain your accreditation, if you're actually being accredited every 3 years, then definitely you'll need to really sustain your compliance and your accreditation. Third common benefits would be it ensure really a safe environment that reduce risk for care recipients and caregivers. And this is so important right now in time of our pandemic is to offer a safe environment, and a lot of new normal policies have been implemented by DOH in terms of how all health facilities will ensure safe environment for their patients, and not just for patients, but of course with their caregivers. The fourth common benefit of being accredited is, of course, to provide a public recognition of their achievements and commitment to excellence. As I said, hindi lang basta you implement and you adopt a best practice or international quality patient safety standards, but ultimately your goal is really for you to recognize for your achievement, no? Pagyabang nyo yung inyong achievement, and that's through you getting a public recognition. And lastly, this is so important on how we're really going to boost medical tourism to really expand a new market. As some sectors and clients require international accreditation before doing business, and this is really true. And I may say, siguro this is ano na to eh, plus na to eh, the new market. Most important also is for you to really give what's the best service to your direct catchment market, which is the community around your facility. So plus na talaga is for you to really get a new market. And that's what we are into the medical tourism, is to get new markets both domestically and internationally. Bottom line of all of these benefits of getting accreditation internationally is to really have a quantifiable benchmark for quality and patient safety, and ultimately to reduce costs through standardized care. So kahit na may investment in terms of getting accredited internationally, long term, you really have a lot of savings because of good standardized care for that matter. Okay? So all of those 5, lahat kaming international accreditation have that. But let me just share the 3 PITAF benefits as well. So first is, of course, our standards promote adoption of a process approach now when developing, implementing, and improving effectiveness of a quality management system to to enhance customer satisfaction by meeting customer requirements. When we mean customer, this is not just patients, these are not just families, but as well as third party payers, um, the health insurance, the HMOs, and even the government like PhilHealth. Second is, ito yung aming pinagmamalaki. The standards we have created really demonstrate that there can be a standard for health service delivery for Filipinos by Filipinos, which is actually comparable to international standards because PTAF is also being accredited by ISQA. And this can be also applicable outside of the Philippines. But of course, our goal for this year and next, the coming years, is not to go outside yet, but we would like really the Philippines, we would like to capture the Philippines because we would like to really have a quality and safety care for all health facilities in the Philippines. And lastly is because of the nature of our PTAF quality standards, healthcare organizations may find it really easy to understand the requirements and thus adopting a quality management system that really could assist organization in achieving higher standards of care. So PTAF really is not at the police, or for that matter, all um, any international accreditation organizations. We're not police, we're not auditors, but we're partners. We would like to partner with the health facilities in order to really achieve the goal of providing quality and safe care for your patients. All right. So next question is, out of the 14 international accreditation, sino ngayon ang isa-select nyo? Okay? How are you going to select on where are you going to apply for accreditation? There are actually two factors that can be seen in the selection process. First, of course, is your goal. And next, of course, as I've mentioned, there's an investment involved in getting international accreditation. It's the budget. If you're the likes of the Medical City, St. Luke's, who really have that budget, and really their goal is to capture the US market, then definitely you'll need to be accredited by JCI, because if your target is US market, then go ahead because all of the US insurers are really requiring the organization or the health facilities to be accredited by JCI. However, if it does not your goal, and of course, tight ang budget nyo, you can actually select, actually not just internationally, but yung gawang Pinoy na, di ba? You go local. Why? Because as mentioned, we are also comparable already with our international competition. And budget-wise, 1% lang kami, no? Sa kanilang fee. Okay? And if your insurers are not particular on what accreditation to get, or international accreditation organization to get, probably they just require you to must be an international accredited, then you can select among the 14 health facilities that will give you the best budget na swak sa budget nyo. Of course, sasabihin ko, PTAF, swak sa budget nyo. Okay? So, having said that, as mentioned, we are the newbie in the band of the international accreditation. I may say I can compare PTAF to Marikina, who's actually doing long time ago very quality shoes as compared to Italy shoes. So we are into quality also, and we are recognized already internationally. So yun yung pwede kong comparison when it comes to PTAF, no? So sino kami? We've actually been founded in 2008 by three major health organizations in the country. These are Association of Health Administrators, or the HAA, ANSAP, or the Association of Nursing Service Administrators of the Philippines, and lastly, PAGHAO, the Philippine Association of Government Hospital Administrative Officers. If you're going to look at our three major founders, you'll see there's doctors, the HAA, there's nurses, the ANSAP, and there's also administrative officers in PAGHAO. And these three are really the major experts when it comes to health facilities operations. Okay. As I mentioned, we've been founded in 2008. Our journey begins in 2008, and almost after a decade, we've been finally accredited by ISQA, or now the IEEA, our PITAF Quality Standards First Edition. And in 2018, we've actually had it tested in 3 pilot hospitals. Ayan na yung aming tatlo na accredited already by PITAF. And in 2019, we've had our first hospital accredited already. And these are the 3 accredited hospitals by PITAF starting in 2019, and fresh na fresh yung pangatlo. So as mentioned in the previous slide, we've already accredited Far Eastern University, Nicanor Reyes Medical Foundation, a private hospital in Quezon City in January of 2019. And in this year, last month lang, November 11, we've already accredited National Children's Hospital, a government hospital, and Tondo Medical Center, fresh na fresh, just yesterday, we've accredited them their accreditation for PITAF. The last two are government hospitals, and I think they are DOH hospitals. No? So congratulations to our 3 accredited hospitals. And I may say they are really safe. They're doing the quality and safe practices already. Okay, in any of the 14 accreditation, we have our accreditation preparation. In this slide, you will actually know that for you to really, the preparation needed for health facilities will really take 18 to 24 months. That is true for Medical City when we prepared for Joint Commission International back in 2006. We've started preparing already, when we transferred to our new building in Pasig in 2004, and we've been accredited in 2006. But this can be shortened. The 18 to 24 months preparation can be shortened depending on the readiness of the facility. Okay, so in each month, we're going to coordinate with you, and with this preparation, we're requiring you, of course, not just at but for any international accreditation for that matter, is for you to really attend their briefing so that you would know the standards and the process on how are you going to be accredited. Okay, next is, of course, after you would know, you would attend their trainings in order for your team to be certified as internal assessors. So we also have that. We offer our PITAF internal assessors. And after being trained, you need to accomplish now the assessment tool in order for you to know the gaps on how are you going to comply the entire standards of that accreditation. Okay, so as I mentioned, 18 to 24 is the maximum, but depending on the readiness of the health facilities, it can be shorter. After the survey day, we also have our timeline in terms of giving you our accreditation decision. For us, we can give you as early as less than 4 months or minimum of 4 months for you to know that if you're already accredited. Okay, so, but of course, in any of the international accreditation, like for JCI, the last day of the actual survey, they give you already an initial So, ganun din kami. We give you already an initial so that you have a sense on your status on your accreditation. Okay? So, we go now to the quality standards. These are now the quality and the patient safety standards. We have 10 chapters. If you're going to look at it, it's the entire operations of a health facility. There's access, assessment and continuity of care, care of patients. We have patients' rights and education, medication management and use, healthcare infection prevention and control, information management system, governance and direction management, facility management and environmental safety, human resource management, and lastly is the CQI or the continuous quality improvement. If we're going to compare us, we actually have 10 chapters. In the other international accreditation like ISO 15224, they actually have 11 quality aspects, while for ACI, they actually have 17, and for JCI, they actually have 14 chapters, mostly similar to what we have. But when it comes to total standards, for us, we have 66 and we have 280 measurable elements. Why is it measurable elements? Because these measurable elements are the one who's really being measured. The 280 measurable elements are the one you need to prepare and to comply with. Comparing now to JCI, we're just 25% of their measurable elements. They are more than 1,000. Why is that? Because we develop our quality standards in order just to a baseline that all health facilities in the Philippines should comply, and ensuring that if you've complied already with these 280 quality standards of PITAF, definitely we were sure that you've already are giving a quality and patient safety services to your patients and to their families as well. Okay, so my last slide, I'd just like to share you that most of the international accreditation also have different types of accreditation. They have different for clinics, outpatient, and they also have different for a laboratory. But for our standards, we have um, our health facility quality standards is really just applicable to all types of health facilities. In this table, we will show you that we have actually have applicability matrix for each type of the level of the health facilities here in the Philippines. For hospitals, levels 1, 2, and 3, we follow the DOH leveling. For primary care, we have custodial care and also have specialized outpatient. The new in our applicability matrix here is the wellness clinic. So even the freestanding wellness clinic, as long as you have this definition under this legend services, you can actually apply for accreditation for PITAF. Okay, so that's hindi it won't stop you for getting international accreditation for wellness clinic, freestanding. Okay, so if you guys, especially owners of health facilities out there, especially in the Philippines, if you're ready to get for the PITAF Gold Seal, you can actually just contact us through these contact details. And you can actually visit our website, pitaf.org. So again, good morning everyone, and I hope you get something from this presentation.
Thank you very much for that very rich presentation about PITAF and the accreditation process. I just have one question to you, Ms. Carla, as follow up. You've described the requirements. You've described the the international standards. That this is really part of a global process. How is PITAF adopting its accreditation process under the new normal? You may have touched on this already a while ago. Maybe you can
Yes.
elaborate and give a few concrete examples. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Doc Renzo. Actually, in all honesty, we don't need to really revise our standards because most of our standards, especially for our infection control, we have actually have there that you need to, the healthcare organizations need to really apply the latest um, guidelines that's been implemented or been asked by their local government or by the government hospital. So um, really, it's actually don't not much in terms of us revising because once we surveyed a health facility, we'll definitely look at the latest, which is the new normal in terms of their implementation of that specific standard in our PITAF standards.
And we'll get back to you later during the
I hope I
panel
answered you.
discussion for more questions.
Yes.
So now let's proceed with the next presenter. Our next speaker is a travel consultant and counselor and has organized numerous travel summits and travel activities. He is also a past national chairman of the Council on Cardiopulmonary Resuscitation of the Philippine Heart Association. Also, world traveler, been to 187 countries and territories, and has performed as a motivational speaker and writer. I wonder how the pandemic has actually affected his travel plans. He graduated with a BS in psychology and a Doctor of Medicine from the University of Santo Tomas and studied quantitative research and epidemiology in cardiovascular medicine in Erasmus University in Rotterdam, the Netherlands. He received an award in Osaka, Japan for the Junior Fellowship Award in Cardiovascular Research and the Presidential Awards by the Philippine Heart Association for CPR training, education, and advocacy. Here to talk on how to market medical services to domestic and foreign tourists under the new normal. Let us give a warm welcome to the Director for International Patient Services and the CPR Center at the Medical City, Dr. Raul Ramboyong.
Hi, good morning to everyone. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay, thank you, Dr. Renzo, for that very comprehensive and rather cool introduction. And thank you for specifying one of the challenges that I'm experiencing right now because as you notice, I was really affected because I'm a cardiologist, I'm a doctor. I have to see patients and at the same time, I'm a world traveler. So basically, I'd like to congratulate the DOT for this wonderful endeavor so that we can really rejuvenate and reconcile all our travel plans. So here I would like to share my personal journey, our journey of the institution or organization during this pandemic, and that's the Medical City. So hopefully we will be able to share some of our life-changing scheme, how we adapted, how we accepted, adapted, and we move on not really to the new normal, but we rather term the next normal. And I'm tasked to focus more on how to market medical services, not just to international, but even to domestic and foreign tourists under the new normal. Well, of course, I would like to talk about travel in general, but restricted lang ako sa medical tourism. So once again, good morning. So just to introduce the organization where I belong, where I work, and while I was also stranded during the pandemic, because this is where my journey started, and this is also where we learn how to accept, adapt, and transcend with the next new normal, the next normal. And hopefully we can share how we can contribute to the medical tourism not just rejuvenating, but more of promoting. So as everybody knows, we've been over 50 years. One of the top healthcare management services was we delivered at the Medical City. It's known to be patient-centered. And then we're internationally known because, as mentioned earlier, we're one of those internationally accredited hospitals in the Philippines as far as JCI is concerned. Now, of course, we're known for optimistic leaders and who are also very supportive and as far as medical tourism is concerned. And we've been JCI accredited for since 2006, and the last one's 2018, and we're really bound to be re-accredited again. And this is my next question, actually. How are we going to adapt to the next normal or the new normal as far as JCI accreditation? Because we do value so that we can promote medical tourism in our country and in the Medical City, we need to be internationally accredited. Okay, so we are the biggest Philippine healthcare network operating under one brand. So we have one international hospital that's based in Guam, and we have 4 provincial hospitals that includes Iloilo, Pangasinan, Clark, and of course Laguna, of course. And of course, we have at least 40 satellite clinics all over the Philippines. So basically here we can address medical tourism, not just internationally, but also domestic. So from Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, we're all over. So we're also known to have converted from centers to what we call institutes of excellence. And we're known to conduct internationally acclaimed aspects, not just in training, not just in research, but also in giving medical services. Okay, so these are actually the different institutes working to promote excellence. So, of course, these are all the institutes, but of course, I'm a little biased because I'm a cardiologist. I work with the Cardiovascular Institute. And basically, these are the same institute that we promote for medical tourism. So these are the flagship program of our institutions. And of course, cardiovascular program is one of them, followed by cancer program, and then preventive and wellness medicine, and so on and so forth. Now, as far as cardiovascular program is concerned, we're known to have conducted. Now, I'd like to recall back that this year alone, January till March, I think I would like to say, being the director of the International Patient Services, we had one of the time that we had a peak number of patients coming from Guam and the Pacific as far as cardiovascular services is concerned, both from the diagnostic and therapeutic. We had CABG, a patient underwent CABG and angioplasty, and then, and then pandemic comes, so that's another story. So as an internationally acclaimed centers promoting medical tourism, we promote international patient management, such as we always state, a worry-free Philippine medical travel. So our international patient concern services, with its satellite referral office in Guam and in the Pacific, is a central point of all international patient transactions, from referral to entry to medical management and discharge from hospital. So we always say we had a pre-departure to departures, so that we assist the journey of our patient as they go and travel to the Philippines just to get well. So we have this referral office based in Guam, a world-class customer services and island customer care. And this is the TMC Medical Referral Office, which actually was inaugurated just last December 2019. And we started operating this year from January, and we had remarkable cases, and we entertained a lot of services, which was actually, hindered by the pandemic. Now, this is just to tell you and to convey to the rest of the world who want to avail of our services, because basically, patients from international patients will come to the Philippines because of cost-effective bills, because otherwise they'd rather stick to their own country. And again, this is just to highlight how to make medical costs predictable and avoiding what we call a medical bill shock for our international patients. Just trying to overemphasize that indeed in the Philippines, physically medical city, our costs are a lot cheaper compared with other international hospitals. Well, those are our programs as far as our contribution to medical tourism in the Philippines. But unfortunately, we're not excluded. We're part of these global challenges, and the COVID-19 happened, and we're now part of these global issues. So that hinders, that affected us, how to promote medical tourism, not just in the medical city, not just in the Philippines, but in the whole world. So the thing is, we have to act immediately. So we'd like to share our experience, our journey during the pandemic, and what happened to the medical city. This is a principle we would like to share as far as how we adapted, rather how we accepted. We are trying to transcend, and we just don't term the word new normal, but rather say the next normal. So this is the lessons from our quarantine. The three A's, and these are agility, adaptations, and of course authenticity. So to start with, I'd like to promote what we did in our organization. There was what I gathered to be what I term collective optimism among leaders, among members. So we readily accepted the fact that we have to work, we have to deliver care, we have to deliver services under challenging times. So the ability to think, understand, and to move quickly is what we really term as the agility. And this is what we did. So adapting to the new normal, or rather to be agile about this, we developed what we call the medical concerts. And it was launched at the height of the pandemic to develop a hassle-free process to receive domestic and even foreign tourists. What actually, as an international patient service director, di naman nabawasan yung mga inquiries. There are still lots of patients who would like to visit the Philippines, go to medical city to receive medical services from cardiovascular to oncology. But I guess the travel restriction was the main issue. Nevertheless, we still provide both services, not just for the non-COVID group, but we also provide services for the COVID group. Hence, we also developed concierge medicines to augment that continuity of care to COVID patients through prescription care and partnership. So we had a balance as far as taking care of the COVID and the non-COVID patients. Agility in building partnership and alliance is another trait that was practiced. So we partnered with several hospitals, quarantine facilities to provide seamless patients' journey to the Philippines and in the medical city. And we even partnered to the airlines, the various airlines, embassies, and travel agencies, and of course with the government sectors, including the DOT and the DOT, and of course the DOH, and of course so with the local government, the city of Pasig. And of course, we move on by trying to adapt to the process of how to adjust to the current situation in order to continue providing our services. So adaptation to be parallel with the business models. One service model that has come out to the pandemic looking more important than ever was what we call the popular drive-through. And this provides a more convenient way where we can provide services to the COVID and even non-COVID patients. That includes the usual swab test, the CLIA antibody tests. And since not all patients can go to the hospital to do a face-to-face, we'd rather do in between. We give the patients opportunity to do online. That includes what we call the P-digital. It's a combination of digital and physical for those patients who are afraid, who have this fear to do face-to-face with their doctors. Nevertheless, we give them also opportunity if they want both. So online consultation were there, virtually the telemedicine and tele-engagements were also provided and promoted. Now, adaptations was made and designed by continuous saving of lives. I remember we will still continue providing cardiovascular services to our international patient services, patients in Guam, in PAC, and as a matter of fact, the Medical City performed the first TAVI in the Philippines during the pandemic. And she was a patient from Guam. And we had 20 successful liver transplant operation with 81% one-year survival rate. And of course, the TMC Cath Lab has performed more procedure than ever compared with other tertiary hospitals. Okay, but also, yes, we've been agile, we adapted, but we want to be more authentic. And this is showing, manifesting quality of being emotionally appropriate, significant, and purposive and responsible. So as you notice, the Medical City during the first wave, basically during the first wave, was one of the forerunner in. We are one of those center where we had most number of COVID cases, and TMC is a forerunner in communicating honestly as far as internal situations of our COVID patients. But what we did is we opened our doors to both cases, the COVID and non-COVID. And TMC was ahead among all hospitals to promote what we call a 2-in-1 hospital, a safe zone for all patients. And also TMC constantly updated partners to different channels to make it easier for them to transact and adjust their expectations. We certainly manage their expectations. And we also care not just, to our patients, but also to relatives and even to frontliners. So authenticity, associating our brand purpose to situations. So we regularly communicate with the different channels as far as COVID and non-COVID situation in the hospital. So now we have the new normal, and that has been, overused. Hence, what we want to provide is to transcend and moving on to what we call the next normal. So this is how we can share, how we can market Philippine medical tourism, through the Medical City experience. So what we want to promote is proper calibration and as far as goals, tools, and techniques. So from a stopgap events, we are now trying to transition in order to go back to our past and back to the future so that we can move on with our medical tourism, not just in the Medical City, and perhaps to promote medical tourism in the entire archipelago. So this is how we can probably do and share calibrations in our goals, our tools, and our technique. So we still continue our business development to alternative healthcare delivery, the example of which are the drive-through, the tele and home care services. We continue to promote the best possible customer experience for our patient through perceptive patient experiences, both COVID-19 and non-COVID-19 customers. And we still collaborate through public relations, which is managed by reputable and crisis informations. And of course, we have effective, appropriate, and responsible communications through strategic foundation of all strategies for all consistent information activities. And of course, this is our tagline: choose the Philippines, choose the Medical City. And these are the salient features of our medical tourism here in the Philippines. So we always emphasize that, English, since it's now the international language, we overemphasize that all our medical staff are, English speaking. We promote that we are well-trained, we have a well-trained medical staff. Hence, we are consistently JCI accredited. And because we are cost-effective, we'd like to promote that we are in line with their would like to visit the Philippines for a more cost-effective services, despite that we are internationally acclaimed. And of course, it's always an issue about not just the patients, but also the relatives. So how they will handle the pandemic situation. Are they safe? Are they protected? And are they being cared? So we provide information about low-cost accommodations. So we have 5-star hotel rooms in our hospital. We have our hostels on top of our alliances with other hotels. And of course, we have also information about vacation destinations. Because at the medical city, we would like to contribute that in the final analysis, despite the pandemic, indeed in the Philippines rather, there's still fun in the Philippines. Nevertheless, we are safe, we are protected, and we still do care. So welcome back to the Philippines and in the medical city. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ramboyong, for that presentation. Instead of just talking about the new normal, let's think of the next normal. I think you just introduced perhaps a new tourism catchphrase that we
Yes.
can adopt in the country. I have a follow-up question, but and then we'll proceed with our panel discussion. You've mentioned several changes that you've adopted as part of adapting to the next normal. Do you see these changes, staying in the operations of the medical city, even post-COVID? And what are these? Maybe you can give some examples of these things that perhaps should become really the norm, even beyond once the pandemic is over.
Okay, one basic adaptation that I personally appreciated much is the development of what we call the medical concierge. Because you know what happened during the pandemic, most of our HMO, most of our health services for our partners, medyo tumigil because of the restrictions. So what we did is the creation of the medical concierge services where facilitated patients, hindi lang yung international, even the domestic. So lahat ng HMO, kami yung nag-facilitate. We have an agency, we have an office downstairs, the medical concierge. And then we discovered that kahit tapos na yung pandemic, magandang ituloy ito. Kasi because the staff working the medical concierge are basically staff ng medical city. So they know better the inside and outside of the system of the hospital. So there is what I call interdependence. So not just from the inside ng medical city, but also with the HMO. So sabi ko, mas magandang ituloy ito in the final analysis. You're also a doctor. So sometimes there's a disconnect between how the HMO will penetrate the hospital. But having said that, and this organization, this innovation of medical concerns, they are now the one facilitating the HMO, the liaison officers, the patient in the hospital. And I see the beauty and the convenience of this. So that's something that probably we can share this to the other institution, how we can facilitate.
Great, and I think that's also in the very spirit of building back better. No, what we've been hearing a lot about as part of the COVID recovery process. So thanks again, Dr. Ramboyong, for your very knowledgeable talk. But you'll not be leaving us because now we will be actually calling our panelists so that we can turn this into a much more interactive conversation about medical tourism and building on the presentations by Miss Carla and Dr. Raul. So now let me call on our panelists, and the first one is the director of the Health Facilities Enhancement Program and the Philippine Medical Travel and Wellness Tourism Program of the Department of Health, Director Leonita Gorgolon. And the second panelist that we have is the Assistant Secretary for Tourism Development Planning. He's also the head of the Office of Product and Market Development, the Medical Travel and Wellness Tourism. He's also the chairperson of the National Technical Working Group for Philippine Medical Travel and Wellness Tourism Program. Also currently the OIC Undersecretary for Tourism Regulation Coordination. and resource generation, Mr. Roberto Alabado II. So, Dr. Gorgolon, I would love to hear. So Dr. Gorgolon, please, we would love to hear your initial reaction to what you heard from Ms. Carla and Dr. Ramboyong.
Okay, thank you very much. Magandang umaga sa lahat. First of all, I would like to thank DOT for inviting us as one of the panelists for this very welcoming activity. And of course, I would like also to greet my co-panelists, Undersecretary Alabado, Ms. Carla, and Dr. Raul Lambuyong. Indeed, providing safe and quality services in all healthcare facilities, including the medical tourism facilities, is one of the core thrusts of the program of the Department of Health in support in its attainment and maintaining the high quality standards of our medical tourism facilities, even in the new normal. Likewise, the program in the Department of Health supports the same advocacy to confidently market our medical services and facilities here and abroad. I just would like to recognize the accredited families as mentioned and emphasized a while ago, which includes our Nicanor Reyes Medical Foundation facilities, National Children's Hospital, Tondo Medical Center, and of course the other proposed or identified medical tourism facilities, because we really would like to have a niche in this intervention as compared to other ASEAN member states. We were also would like to most importantly recognize that this is our fundamental ingredients so that the Philippines become more competitive in the local and international market. I think that's all. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Gorgolon, for your initial remarks. Now I would like to ask Assistant Secretary Mr. Roberto Alabado for his comments as well.
Good morning to everyone. Could you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, very
Okay.
clearly.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, good morning to you, doctors, and thank you for being with us today. And ako lang atang hindi doktor dito sa inyo, pero I would still boast that I come from a medical family. Lahat sila doktor except ako, father ko, mother, and my two siblings. Anyway, so we're looking right now at two topics. One is quality, and number two is marketing in the new normal. And looking at the quality of the medical facilities that we have here, I can say that I visited some medical facilities abroad, and some of our medical facilities are at par or even much better than what they have. I have heard of reviews coming from tourists. Eto, mga maliliitan pang mga clinics natin, they had their dental care here, they had some aesthetics clinic, and they said they were so surprised by the quality of standards that we have in our clinics. And for the price, sabi nila in their countries, because these were Europeans, it would have costed them 10 times as much than what they paid here in the Philippines. But what they said, we had better service, we had better quality. So this now becomes an issue, because we have to have more hospitals that we can assure people of its quality. Kaya, what the organization of PITAF was emphasizing, international accreditation is a must now. If the Philippines would like to compete, then we have to have international accreditation. If we're talking about doctors, yes, we have some of the best doctors in the world. If you want to say nurses, we have the best nurses in the world. Our healthcare system is okay. So And some of our hospitals have been recognized as some of the best in Asia and if not in the world. So we have all of these pluses, but I think we still need to we go to the marketing na naman. So in marketing, we need to have more contacts. More, we have to talk to more people from the insurance companies, the nations. Yung ano na talaga, yung formal, government to government, in introducing to them our medical services. Of course, we have TMC and St. Luke's who have been targeting the Pacific Islands. So, Pacific Islands, for those of you who do not know, ang hospital nila is the Philippines. That is there. That is how good we are. That some Pacific Islands are going just to the Philippines because they know that we can take care of their people. So, when we talk of hospitals, we are going to be going on another level. We're now talking of medical tourism. So there is now the word tourism in such. So when this means if we have a medical facility targeting our medical our medical tourists, then they have to upgrade their infrastructure, their services, and their amenities to accommodate the tourism side of it. Kaya heto po yung ano, I hope we can talk more about this later. Na I have seen hospitals here in the Philippines and abroad na pagpasok mo, akala mo wala ka sa hospital. Kasi akala mo nasa hotel ka. I know some of the these two hospitals that are present here right now. Yung mga doctors natin, ang kulang na lang nga sa inyo is ang sabi ng ibang mga turista, ang kulang na lang daw is red wine kasi you have a piano bar in your lobby. So that's great. If I get those those comments coming from real tourists, real medical tourists, then congratulations. So these are my initial comments about these our two esteemed speakers.
Thank you, sir, for those comments. And I actually have a few reflections based from what I heard from you. One, I think that's the future of the hospital. It shouldn't actually look like a hospital. And I know we have another session on wellness. We want to really ensure that hospitals become places of wellness. But now the challenge is because of COVID-19, did COVID-19 make it more difficult for us to turn hospitals into havens of wellness? So maybe that's a question also for Dr. Ramboyong, maybe from the experience of the medical city, and also for Pitaf. How are you embedding this idea of hospitals not just as healthcare providers, but as well places of wellness as part of accreditation? And then my other comment, sir, is you acknowledged a while ago that we're a few doctors here, and you're not a physician as well. I think Miss Carla isn't as well. But this is the beauty of medical tourism. It brings different sectors together. Health is not anymore just a business or the mission of physicians like ourselves. Everyone is part, and I think COVID-19 also made us realize that every sector is important in the creation of health and wellness. And so this is a great conversation we're having. So going back to that question that I have about turning hospitals into places of wellness, especially because that's what travelers and medical tourists are expecting, are looking for, especially once the situation of the pandemic has become more stable. How are we embedding this into accreditation, into our practices, for instance, in TMC? Who would like to answer first? Or maybe I'll call Carla first.
Okay, ladies first talaga, no, Doc? For PITAF as an accrediting body, in terms of services for hospitals, I know most of the hospitals already have expand their services to have a wellness clinic. If that's the case, that would be part of their accreditation for the entire hospitals. But if you're going to look at my presentation, for those freestanding wellness clinic, they'll also have the chance to get an international accreditation because we are also accredit a wellness clinic aside from hospital health facilities for that matter.
And thank you. And how about Dr. Amboyong? Any other additional lessons from the TMC?
Okay. Ako, I would like to share my experience. So, kaya nga, I really, when they invited me to be a speaker in this endeavor, talagang tinanggap ko kasi, I mean, it's a beautiful experience because I am a doctor and I'm also a traveler. So I would like to share my personal experience. Why I would prepare going to a certain country and what was my experience. And probably we can use my experience in sharing this to the medical tourism aspect. First, every time I travel, simply you want to be comfortable. You want to feel like you're in a home away from home. You also wanted to experience. I want also to share my experience about getting a new a good Samaritan in a foreign land. So when they go to the Philippines, I want them to feel that parang they are in a home away from home, and there's always a help anytime, anywhere in the Philippines. Now, the problem now during the pandemic, now, yung experience ng mga patient natin, they will always ask. Kasi hindi naman talaga natigil yung mga inquiries. Even, as I said, because we open our referral services sa Guam last December 2019. And simula January, February, March, I would like to say that this one of the peak. Just to share, we're having mga 2 to 3 cabbages a day, even angioplasty. Yun nga lang nagka-pandemic. So the inquiries were still there, the plan to travel was still there, but our main restriction, of course, is the COVID. First, travel restrictions. That's one. And the other thing is, the basic question is always, are we safe and are we protected? So I think in the medical city, we try to promote, yes, in the medical city, it's safe, you are protected, but we still care. So I'd like to use the tagline. So maybe we can use it to the rest of the world that in the Philippines, it's still safe, it's protected, but we still care. So indeed, there's still fun in the Philippines, pero pwede ka pa rin gumaling. So I think because not all countries would promote that way, na safe pa rin tayo, protected, but we still maximizing care. And I think in the medical city yung ginawa namin. I remember, just to say another experience, when the medical concierge, when we opened the lobby na para siyang hotel, as mentioned by our undersecretary, some of my patient messages me, the doc, ay, kanya naman tsura ng medical city, hindi siya nakakatakot hindi halatang marami kayong COVID. So they started coming in. So I think we can promote the Philippines as a safe destination, a well-protected destination. But at the end of the day, it's still a beautiful tourist destination. We can actually balance real tourism and medical tourism. Realistic promotion, I would say. Thank you.
Thanks, sir, for those remarks and for those concrete examples. And I think this idea of hospitals being places of wellness. You mentioned, Dr. Amboyong, the word care, no? That people really feel that they're being cared for in these places. I think that also expands to other places of travel, not just the hospitals that are part of the medical tourism industry, also beach resorts. So I know in the past several day or two, there were some discussions in social media about possibly a possible discrimination, towards different people with different abilities in a particular beach resort. And I think the reminder is that we want to make sure that every place welcomes everyone, that is inclusive, that is caring for different people's needs, and that applies to travel spots, but also to to the hospitals and healthcare facilities that are part of medical tourism. I want to bring in Dr. Gorgolon to bring in more perspective from the Department of Health. Um, I know the pandemic has really put a tremendous stress on the Philippine health system. And sometimes, maybe the people are asking, why should we think about medical tourism when we have imminent and pressing concerns that afflict our citizens, because of, again, of the pandemic, the virus. So how do we strike a balance between, making sure, I know universal healthcare is really the centerpiece agenda of the DOH, but at the same time, we build vigorous medical tourism systems which also bring not just revenue to the country, but also really raise the profile of the country as a travel and health hotspot in the world.
Thank you for raising that. Actually, I just would like to emphasize that even before the pandemic comes in, we have already in our pipeline on how we can strike a balance between any emergency situation and making sure that we are still on at par with the other country as far as provision of healthcare services, particularly the medical tourism. So in our latest guidelines on harmonizing facilities, we have already in place the thought of labeling our facilities, may it be a medical tourism facilities or our government facilities, to a healthy therapeutic facility, incorporating all the five senses. So we are now trying to make sure that even if we are in the pandemic state, we are still having our health facility enhancement program to look into how we can still maintain our good facilities in this five senses direction. The hotel-like appearance, so we are now trying to transform our medical facilities into a hostel-like. So even po yung ating colors, we try to do away from the yellow and green, but to a more earth color. We try to inject our lobby hospitals to make sure that this is very encouraging and inviting. We try to inject even the sense of smell. So we encourage our facilities to smell like a coffee shop. So these are things that we had already started incorporated to strike a balance between a pandemic era and to make sure that the provision of quality and a hospitable facility will be in place. I think we can share that in our next forum, how to build facilities with injecting the five senses, the feel of the smell, the sight, the color, and even the compassionate provision of services. We are now injecting that. Thank you very much. Over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Gorgolon. And indeed, no, when we define healthcare quality, it's not just, clinical care quality, that the surgery was done well, there are no, post procedure infections, but also, again, going back to this idea of care and wellness, people really feel comfortable. And that's why you mentioned about the importance of really thinking about hospital building design, the lobby, the clinics, etc. And that is an important step towards really upgrading our facilities to be, globally competitive, to meet the standards that Carla mentioned a while ago. Again, as part of accreditation. There are some questions, and I also encourage our audience in Facebook to please continue feeding your questions. We have one which is about this idea of travel corridors or travel bubbles. For instance, Hong Kong and Singapore, because the two small countries, so much more easy to manage than an archipelago of 7,000 islands. They were able to contain the virus for several months now, and they were able to also establish a travel bubble, where, the requirements are more relaxed and their citizens can have there can be a free flow or a much easier flow of citizens and tourists from both countries. How are we preparing to create these travel bubbles or corridors, maybe with other countries? For instance, ASEC Alabado mentioned that the Pacific Islanders are looking to the Philippines for their healthcare. And so how can we create those travel corridors and bubbles so that medical tourists actually feel safe to come to the Philippines, again, to raise the level of confidence among our friends from overseas? Who would like to venture an answer? Sir, Dr.
Dr. Go.
Ramboyong, please.
Dr. Gorgolon?
Okay,
Go.
personally, again, I will try to share my experience as a tourist and a traveler. Kasi medyo biased kapag as a doctor. I think we can probably utilize the same scheme na ginagawa ng ibang countries, how they promote tourism in their respective destination. So I'm not sure if DOT, if it will be effective if we have our own promotional taglines. Like, we know we use the word "there's fun in the Philippines." And I remember yung sinabi ni Dr. Gorgolon about the five senses. In the past, there was this country who used the tagline. I'm not sure which country. I know actually, hindi mahirap pag-promote. The word is exploring your senses. So, yes, we have promotional tourism focusing on domestic tourism and international tourism per se in general. But perhaps, I'm not sure if it will be effective if we can have another promotional program on medical tourism, such as a tagline on visit, visit the Philippines. There's more fun in the Philippines. Yes, I said it's safe, but we care. Something like that. Because as of now, I'm not sure, correct me if I'm wrong, medyo wala pa tayong promotional program on medical tourism during these challenging times. And I'd like to ask our Undersecretary about if there are any programs, because we would like to utilize it as well as far as making a partnership with with the Philippine Medical Tourism Promotion, and in partnership with the Medical City Referral System. Ano po?
Thanks, Dr. Ramboyong. Does the ASEC have an answer to that question?
Yes, definitely. For now, the Department of Tourism, if you could see our strategy right now, we're building domestic bubbles. Okay, hindi pa siya yung pang international, because we are readying the domestic bubbles in preparation for introducing the international bubbles. So we have Baguio, we have the Ilocos Norte, Ilocos Sur, and right now we have people in Bohol, we have Siargao. So these are the tourist destinations that we are preparing for domestic tourism. And I was wondering, ngayon we're talking about medical travel, and when we can we have a bubble between the airport and the let's say hospital? What will be a very secure way of from airport papunta sa sa hospital, that the international patients will be safe from being unnecessarily exposed to the external environment. So maybe we can do that, but at the same time, when we're talking of marketing, the Department of Tourism never stopped marketing. And we have our mga TAs, mga tourism attachés. They know now about medical tourism, and they see the value of it, and they are just doing the groundworks on such. Meron kaming mga fam trips. It was supposed to be coming from Australia, coming to the Philippines, so that they can explore or see our facilities here, both in the medical and the dental. side of it, because um, would you believe that many of the Aussies, they come to the Philippines just for dental? Ang bilis daw eh. If they're going to wait there, it's going to be what, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. They would rather go to the Philippines, have their dental care procedures, then go to the beaches. That's how valuable. Kaya nga yung pag sinabi natin travel bubble with medical tourism, it's going to be a bubble between the airport, their nation, coming to our hospitals. Then from the hospitals, then the tourism side comes in. From the hospitals to our tourist spots. So this will be the medical tourism bubble that we may help plan out. So far, for Department of Tourism, we are exploring creating the local destinations, making local destinations safe for domestic travelers, and eventually it will open up to international.
Thanks, Asek, and I think those are great plans to create those healthy and safe bubbles from the airport to the hospital, straight to the beach, and maybe that's a conversation that will need to happen after this call. The other thing that I realize is that and of course we have many people listening, tuning into this conversation. We all have a responsibility to keep the bubble safe, right? Otherwise, if the virus ends up entering these bubbles, then it will be really disruptive. For instance, to the medical tourism activities, domestic tourism, etc. So I would encourage all our listeners to please keep on wearing your masks and observing social distancing, and let's not hold big gatherings for the upcoming Christmas season. It's just for this year. Otherwise, this might be our last Christmas. We don't want that to happen. Okay. So we have more questions, and I guess one question I want to bring in Miss Carla again about accreditation, and maybe you can speak to the if there are hospitals that really want to participate in this process, especially in the middle of this pandemic. What advice can you give to them? Are there some kind of revisions in your procedure, or is there a website that they can visit? Please, Miss Carla.
Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, as I said, you can visit our website, pitaf.org, and it's actually the best time since occupancy is really low. It's the best time for you to revisit all your processes, all your procedures, and in terms of our briefing, PITAF offers actually, as mentioned, on a quarterly basis. You can actually message us in our website. You can actually email the pitaf.om@gmail.com. If your hospital is interested for us to conduct briefing, we can actually, as we've conducted a lot of briefings already, partners with DOT and BOI, we can actually do briefing so that we can introduce morely our standards and how our accreditation process is. As mentioned, you can actually just prepare within the 18 months, and while waiting for international medical tourism to be open, it's now high time for health facilities to be ready and spend this time in preparation in terms of them getting the international accreditation. So on a quarterly basis, I may said probably next year of February, we're also going to conduct another run for our PITAF internal assessors trainings, but we offer also a lot of e-learnings in terms of our how the healthcare organization can accredit. So as I mentioned, it's really high time for this period to really revisit all your processes because there's a lot of new normal guidelines set by DOH in terms of the new normal. And it's also high time for you to really assess how compliant and how ready your health facilities are in terms of really being accredited and cert accredited by PITAF or other international accreditation for that matter. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, I would like to echo what Carla said. It's high time to there's no better time
Yes.
than now. So that's a really clarion call, and please visit their website. I saw Dr. Ramboyong's hand waving. Do you have any additional comments?
Yeah, I'd like to ask Carla. I'd like to take advantage of this. By the way, Carla is my patient. So
Yes.
nag-reunion kami dito, no? Hi, Carla. New
Hi,
normal.
Doc. It's high
I
time to
know
visit you.
you're okay. Huwag lang COVID, di ba? Okay, I'd like to ask Carla because I'm sure this is a very interesting question, and lots of our accreditation committee in each hospital are interested to know. First, what are the modification are you planning? I mean, the international accreditation committee ba? Number one, are you planning to do extension of our, you know, kumbaga kung next year lang kami pwede bang extend another year? That's the first question. Because we're bound for a re-accreditation. Number two, well, we know that hopefully someday we'll be like Thailand. It's really back to normal. But in the event that the COVID, the pandemic will not change, are you planning to do certain adjustment about accreditation like you do? Is it possible to do virtual? What do you think? Can you share your thoughts and what you know about your partners abroad?
Okay. Yeah. I'd like to share now. I've actually attended the IEA or the ISQA networking meeting, actually with regards to the accreditation. First is most of us, ISQA accredited or IEA accredited, already have conducted a hybrid survey method wherein most majority do virtual survey as well as on-site survey. But for PTAF, we've actually implemented 100% virtual survey, and it's actually worked. It worked with our past two surveys with Tondo Medical Center and National Children's Hospital, and it's just a matter of us really preparing and anticipating all the processes and the process survey activities that will happen and orient the healthcare organization who's going to be surveyed. Next on this question on accreditation extension, that actually has been asked, and the ISQA or the IEA response to that is it will actually depend on the international accreditation. For PTAF, I may answer that we will not actually extend because we can actually do virtual surveys, but we actually have some guidelines in terms of requests on extensions on the actual survey dates. So you might want to coordinate also Dr. Ramboyong with Joint Commission. For sure, they will also would have some guidelines on extending your accreditation for that matter. But the ISQA's response is it will really depend on the international accreditation organization on if they're going to give an extension. But I think some of the international accreditations who are accredited by ISQA have given extension or validity because, as mentioned, usually the validity is just 3 years, no? So you've mentioned, Dr. Ramboyong, you're up for next year,
Yeah.
tama ba? You're up for next year for accreditation. You might want to ask Joint Commission and request for an extension for that matter. And for sure, they will have a guidelines on. For PTAF, we only can extend up to a maximum of 3 months for that extension. But we can actually be flexible depending on the situation. But as we said, we can actually conduct our survey virtually. So there's no way for us to really delay the survey accreditation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Carla.
Thank you, Doctor.
Great. And actually, Dr. Amboyong, I have a few questions for you. A while ago, you mentioned that despite the pandemic, you've been getting inquiries from prospective medical travelers. Can you give us a bit of a characterization, where they're coming from, what are their main the inquiries or the questions that they ask? Did they end up actually coming to TMC? And maybe the other question that I have is, can you speak a bit about the safety measures that you've adopted? You might have covered already a bit of it in the earlier presentation, but bring us to TMC. And if I'm a medical traveler, do I actually get mixed up to patients with COVID-19? I'm sure not. If you can share with us a bit of your experience.
Okay. So, as I mentioned earlier, the inquiries are still overflowing. In fact, during the pandemic, we're getting more emergencies actually. There were lots of cases that are bound to travel, but because of the travel restriction, actually yun lang naging limitation, travel restriction from their respective countries like Guam coming into the Philippines. So, but it's the airlines actually, the limitation to the airlines. So the first question actually that they would always ask, are we safe to travel? That's one. So the issue there is not just in our hospital. The first question is, are we safe to travel in the airlines? So I think that's also a responsibility of the airlines to make a statement in their information campaign as to the safety travel within the airlines, within the airports, etc. But as far as in our hospital is concerned, I guess I was stated earlier that we promoted what we call 2-in-1 because we cannot do away with COVID. We're known as one of the center in the Philippines and perhaps in the whole world that we had good cases of successful COVID patients, meaning marami kayong napauwing recovered. So we stick to that. But on the other hand, there's still a continuous inquiries, continuous need of other non-COVID cases. So first thing first, we told them that the hospital, iba yung area ng COVID, there are designated floors for COVID cases. There are designated areas for COVID cases. Even the elevators, the pathways, and in fact, our ER, naging dalawang ER namin, yung yung main ER which catered for non-COVID cases. And what the other ER is what we call sa amin lang, dirty cases. Doon pumunta yung mga COVID cases namin. So, having said that, pag nalalaman ng mga patient then, they're comfortable. And it's how we manage fear. Sabi nga namin it's okay to have fear, but we can manage your fear. We can adapt to the situation. Now, the other thing is something that I share. I mean, I cannot inhibit answering the questions from patients. They always ask me, Doc, do you handle COVID cases? Now, in our institution, specifically the Cardiovascular Institute, what we did actually, since there are so many cardiologists amongst us, medyo nagkaroon kami rotation. Merong certain group lang who will only handle COVID cases. And those who will also handle non-COVID cases. I don't know what was the criteria of our director, but I was assigned to non-COVID cases. So I strictly manage non-COVID cases. So that the patients and relatives will have this, what I have to term, a very reassuring atmosphere of safety and protection, not just for patients, but for doctors and relatives as well. I think that's the line that I always convey them. Something that I learned from my patient na sinasabi nila na, Doc, kasi at Medical City, you have a very reassuring atmosphere, not just of safety and care, not just for patient, but for relatives and doctor as well. Kasi gusto nila malaman na safe din ng doctor. Gusto nila malaman na safe din ng relative. It's not just the patient. So I think that's one. We made sure that the concept of two hospital in one. Tama ba? Two hospital in one. So ibang elevator ng COVID, ibang elevator na ng COVID, ibang daanan nila. At there are only 2 to 3 units allotted for COVID cases. So they're safe. in that area. Kahit umikot sila doon sa perimeter na yun, they know they're safe. And we also promoted that there's a regular cleaning of the elevators, yung mga upuan. So I think that's what they really need. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Ramboyo. And I think, what I'm hearing is a while ago we had a discussion as well about marketing and branding. And I think one lesson is how can we use the COVID success story as part of that post-COVID medical tourism branding. And if you're saying that TMC has a very high recovery rate, I think that should be very enticing to prospective medical travelers that they're going to a really highly competent and safe hospital. We have a question about in investing. If we want to, if the hospitals want to become internationally accredited, maybe Carla, you can speak about the amount of resources and not just financial resources, but the energy and the effort that will need to be invested or allocated so that they can be truly internationally accredited.
All right. As mentioned in my presentation, there are really two factors that you would really consider in selecting what type of international accreditation organization to choose. First is in terms of investment, it ranges actually for a minimum of 350,000 to a maximum of 18 million pesos. But for PITAF, we actually just cater for 700,000 for a non-hospital, no branches facility, while 1 million for hospitals and with those non-hospital with branches. And if we compare our fee to that of JCI, ACI, and other internationally accredited, we're just 5% of their fee because they are more or less 18 million just for accreditation fee and excluding pa yon yung travel accommodations. So as what DOTs always say, go local para you're more mas less expensive siya. In terms of the effort, definitely when an health institution really plans to go into international accreditation, this would really entail the passion and the commitment of the top management. Because if that's not the case, then it's so impossible for that institution because no support coming from management. It will really come from a top management passion and commitment and goal because that has been shown by our 3 accredited hospitals, FEU, Tondo Medical Center, and National. The management, the governance is so superb in terms of really the passion of really leveling up their services and making sure that they're really going to adapt have a patient quality safety standards in their institution. So I hope I answer you, Dr. Renzo.
Thanks, Carla. And indeed, no, it's not just the money, but the passion, as you've mentioned, and the top level buy-in and support.
Correct.
And so if you are a hospital or you're working in a hospital considering to participate in the medical tourism program of the DOT, it really takes, a village or the entire hospital, diba? To really make this happen and make this a success. I have a question to Dr. Gorgolon because we lost her for a bit due to technical difficulties. She's now back, and Dr. Ramboyo was mentioning a while ago that really one of the main issues, the causes of disruption, is the travel restriction. So my question is, when will the travel restrictions be lifted by the IATF and the NTF? And maybe the broader question is, what is the the projected situation of the COVID situation in the country in the next several months, even beyond Christmas from the DOH perspective, so that our friends from the travel and tourism sector will be updated.
Thank you very much for that question, Dr. Renzo. But nevertheless, even if I'm not the representative of NTF or IITF, but as part of the officials of the Department of Health, we are now looking at a very good projection in the next 6 months, given the prospect of vaccine. But we should not be complacent about the decrease and increase of cases nationwide. But for us from the Department of Health, we are still dependent on the critical care units utilization per area when we talk about lifting of the travel bans. But I think this is only to be determined by the different agencies who will look into economic situation and business plans for the Philippines. But from the Department of Health, we will still maintain the minimum health standards, given that we have to really look into the coming in of the Christmas holiday and the next 3 months for the first 3 months of 2021. We still maintain the imposing of the BIDA. BIDA means we have to really ensure the wearing of the face mask and the face shield. We have to maintain the distance of at least 1 meter. We have to be aware of what are the things around us. And at the same time, we have to do sanitation every now and then. So these are things that we have to emphasize. We should not be complacent about the decreasing cases, but we have to maintain this. So I'm not in the position to really predict on when will be the travel ban be lifted, but I'm also a traveler. So we still have to follow the travel advisory. But for the Department of Health, we are now preparing our tourist destination area. I just would like to really emphasize that we, in collaboration with the Department of Tourism, we're now trying to put in place making sure that the tourist destination areas should have swabbing and laboratory to make sure that the entry and exit of the travelers will be assured of safety. And for the hospital facilities, we're now trying to make sure that we have isolation facilities. We have quarantine facilities to make sure that if in case there will be a positive travelers who need to be confined in a specific area, we have these services. We're also ensuring that we have available space and transportation. Even for our referral system, we are trying to strengthen and improve this. So ito lang po yung aking message share in preparation for the Christmas holiday and the next 6 months which we are anticipating for the availability of vaccine. We are looking at July 2021 for the vaccine. I'm not pronouncing this officially, but for the vaccine to be available and in place third quarter of next year. Thank you very much. Over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Gorgolon. And I'm pretty sure that even our friends from the Department of Health have been itching to travel again. As you've said, you yourself is a traveler. And that's why it takes the whole of society to really make sure that the pandemic ends sooner rather than later. As we know, the vaccine is almost there. Yesterday, the first was vaccinated in the UK, no less than by a Filipino nurse. So that speaks to what ASEC Robbie mentioned a while ago, that Filipino health professionals are really, competent and well-renowned. And so that's actually quite inspiring to see. One of ours is the one, giving the first dose, the first in billions of doses of the vaccine. But while the vaccine is still yet to arrive in our shores, we need to do our part. So that's a very important call from Director Borgolon. If we want to travel sooner rather than later, a little bit of sacrifice will be important. And so, again, please let's think about our Christmas and New Year plans so that we don't see a spike in January. Because that will overwhelm our hospitals, including the medical city, which is the one of the main COVID referral hospitals. So now we're reaching the end of our conversation, and I'll ask you to give some one-liner, reminders, advice, comments to inspire and educate our listeners. And then I'll have Asek Alabado last because he will also give us some closing remarks. And also maybe Asek Alabado, you can just lay out what is the game plan of the Department of Tourism for, quoting our title, rejuvenating the medical tourism industry in the age of COVID. So maybe I'll ask Carla first.
Okay. For last words, probably if you're really into the game of medical tourism, as I said, it's a must to be internationally accredited. And as DOT said, go local, choose PITAF for to be your partner in the international accreditation. And please be safe, everyone. And happy and excited to be again to open the tourism for everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Ramboyong.
Okay. Well, first of all, I'd like to congratulate the organizing committee for this rare opportunity of a lifetime because I was really looking forward to be part of the travel medicine. As a matter of fact, supposedly this year, I'm going to conduct a travel summit, and I was inviting actually one of the from the travel industry from the EOT. It was a beautiful summit actually. That would be the third of a series, coming from sharing experiences, how we can enhance travel medicine, and then of course highlighting the Philippines as not just as a travel destination but also for medical tourism. Now, having said that, with the pandemic, we realized that we can still travel to a certain extent, domestic travel. Actually, ngayon ko na-appreciate, sir, yung domestic travel even local travel, because I'm bound to have my 190 country this year na udlot. So what I did is just to explore traveling locally in virtual. But at the end of the day, the pandemic should not change us to something worse. We can still have get the best version of ourselves. So what I'd like to say to the rest of the world is there's still fun in the Philippines because still we're safe, we're properly protected, and we still care. Yan ang Mr. Undersecretary would like to convey, the messages that I'm getting from our patients. Iba ang alaga talaga ng Pilipino. Ito, your doctors, they're even amazed why they visit them. We visit them every day. Because in other country, swerte na daw sir na mag-visit siya once a week. I went to Marshall Island, I went to Micronesia, and even in Middle East. Nagugulat sila why Filipino doctors are seeing them every day. And they are being seen by doctors at least 5 times a day. And to them, that's so special. And more than anything else, they get the assistance door to door. So even from airport to airport, ang ganda ng journey nila. And again, I'd like to convey this thing kasi sayang opportunity. What they really enjoy is full package medical tourism. They also give information not just about the medical part, not just the accommodation part. They also inspire them about travel destination, including shopping. So again, I think we should continue. The pandemic should not stop us with our journey because there's still life after the pandemic. It's just numbers. Sabi ko, it's just a number. Anything that is numbered will end. Diba? Number lang yan Number of cases. So mag-e-end din yan. 2020. So it will end someday. So my last tagline is, okay, stay safe, be healthy, and still be happy. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Ramboyong, and I personally will have a long way to catch up with you. I still have 100 countries to reach your level, but maybe after this pandemic, you should give us a webinar to
Oh
give us
yes.
tips. About these more than almost 200 countries that you've been to. Now let's call on Director Gorgolon for her closing statement.
Okay, so I would like to again thank everyone, especially for inviting us in this very timely opportunity for us to share information. And we are looking forward to more partnerships, especially in developing standards. We envision to be at par with our ASEAN state members. In fact, our mandate for 2021 is really looking into what is happening in our ASEAN state members so that we can prepare Philippine tourism. Good luck to all of us and Merry Christmas. Thank you for this.
Thank you, Dr. Gorgolon. And last but not the least, Asek Alabado.
Uh, so, Dr. Ranso, is this part of my closing remarks na para ano tuloy-tuloy tayo?
Sure. Yeah, because you probably will cover the same messages. So yeah, your last comment for this panel, but also your closing remark for the whole conference.
Yes, for our speakers, I would like to thank you for your valuable insights because number one, we have to reiterate quality over quantity. However, in some ways, quantity also will show that we have quality. So it works both ways. In medical tourism, we are saying that we have quality hospitals here or healthcare facilities that can cater to foreign tourists and domestic tourists alike. But at the same time, if we want to have a reputation that we are a center or a destination for medical travel and wellness tourism, then we have to have the quantity of those who have quality healthcare systems. So we are looking at that, and thank you for emphasizing that earlier. Um, then at the same time, when we do marketing right now on the Philippines healthcare systems, we are now integrating how we are doing in our COVID response. And I have read a lot of comments na parang sometimes it gets lost in the so many social media memes. Oo, na parang may masabi lang. But let's look at the facts. Our doctors here say the facts. They are saying that we have a very good record in our COVID response in terms of recovery of patients. We are taking care of our patients. So I think that says a lot to our healthcare system. Then at the same time, this is part of our marketing right now. That we took care of our COVID patients and they became well. Um, a lot of we have a very good percentage who recovered from COVID. So we can put that into our marketing. And I think TMC showed us what is the travel journey that we have in the new normal of COVID plus medical tourism. And I agree that it is very safe. Our hospitals here have implemented some of the highest standards that I have seen in medical in COVID response. So I thank our hospitals for that. Anyway, I would like now to share with you what's the government plan about how are we going to support. We have the private sector who are ready and who are already into medical tourism. But here are some of our plans. Number one, a DOH and DOT and other agencies. We have BOI, we have the DFA, uh, we have other agencies, the Bureau of Immigration, are now in the verge of having a joint um, parang memo creating a leadership formation for medical tourism. And this is big because if you're going to look at our competitors in ASEAN, they have their own agencies. Ang sa iba pa nga, para na siyang department level just for the medical tourism side of it because they see that they are earning billions of dollars out of medical tourism. And maybe we can also do that so that we can earn income for our hospitals so that our healthcare workers can have better lives. Next is we're looking at for the Department of Tourism, we're looking at marketing. Marketing will be on the ASEAN level. Etong mga malalapit lang muna. We're looking at Indonesia, Papua New Guinea, and ang tawag ko nga dito, the real blue ocean approach because we would like to get the market of the Pacific Islands, including Australia. So these are part of the marketing plans. Where are we going? But at the same time, exciting po kasi open na po ang Philippines for our balikbayans. And balikbayans, when they come here to the Philippines, one of the first things that they do is they have aesthetics and they have their medical checkups and their dental checkups. So with the balikbayans people coming now from the US and from all over, I think medical tourism is now here again. And we're looking at integrating this in the various packages. So if you're here for Sun and Beach, we're going to integrate a visit to a hospital for your medical checkup, a dentist, or even an aesthetic clinic. And of course, you're going to have your wellness integrated into your tours. So ganun po yung strategy na iniisip ng Department of Tourism. And when I was in an international parang global wellness summit, they were saying that a few people whom I met, when they knew that I was in the Philippines, they said we are one of the countries, or we may be the first country to integrate medical and wellness, because in so many areas, si medical and wellness medyo magkalayo eh. But here we have the chance to integrate medical and wellness. So I see now our hospitals having ties with our wellness resorts. So you're a patient, then later you would like to recuperate, so you can recuperate in some of the best wellness resorts in the world. So ganito po yung isang strategy na nakikita pa po natin. And lastly, we would like to have more accredited, internationally accredited hospitals here in the Philippines. Not just hospitals, but ambulatory clinics, aesthetics, wellness facilities, all of these, because we will be giving our international tourists the assurance that they will be well taken care of. So, last words, I would like to susugan ko po yung sinabi ni Dr. Raul. When he says that hospitality is our main thing, I remember telling the audience when I was in Asambata sa Dubai ata or I was doing some marketing, educating people about medical tourism, and I told them, okay, all of us here in the whole world would have some of the best doctors, well-trained doctors. In the Philippines, our doctors are well-trained from the US, from Europe, everywhere. And they are at par with the best doctors. But after your surgery, after your procedure, who will you go to ensure that you recover right? Actually, it's the nurses. Our caregivers. We have the best in the world. So, if they want to heal faster and heal in a much happier tone, then the Philippines is the place to be. So, for rejuvenating the medical travel and wellness tourism, I see that in the eyes of the tourists right now, they would like wellness and medical or health travel to be part of their travel all around the world. Health is now the priority, and this is what we are going to harvest. Next year, please prepare. I think we are on our way to being one of the major medical travel and wellness tourism destinations in our part of the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Asek Alabado, for those very inspiring closing remarks. And it's great to hear the vision of the Department of Tourism for the future of medical tourism in the country in the era of COVID-19 and beyond. That's our conversation. And again, thank you to Dr. Raboyong, to Ms. Carla, to Dr. Gorgolon, and to Asik Alabado for all your words of wisdom, for sharing your experiences. I'm sure this is not the last conversation. And the faster we end this pandemic, the sooner we can hold this face to face and really come up with a multi-sectoral, whole of society game plan for the rejuvenation of the medical tourism industry. So again, thank you, and thanks to also to our viewers and to our listeners for spending your time with us. And we hope that you learned a lot from this session. And we also invite you to the next one, which will happen on December 11 at 9:30 a.m. And this time it will be around the wellness tourism industry. So again, I'm Dr. Renzo Ginto, and it's a pleasure to be your host for today's webinar. Have a great day, everyone, and Merry Christmas to all of us. Goodbye.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.